Hey all, let me start at the beginning. I live alone. Well, me and my cat, Data. Yeah, I'm that guy. I work from home as a freelance IT consultant, mostly cybersecurity audits. Ironically, I'm the dude people call when their systems feel off. So I guess this is karma biting back. My house is pretty smart. Nest thermostat, Ring doorbell, Arlo indoor cams, Alexa in every room, Philips Hue lights, Samsung SmartThings hub, the whole shebang. I even set up a local server to log and timestamp everything. It's all tied together in this neat little dashboard I can monitor from my phone. It was my pride and joy. Past tense. The first weird thing happened maybe 2 weeks ago. 2:13 a.m. I was asleep. Got a push notification from the Arlo cam in the living room. Motion detected. Normally it's Data chasing shadows, but when I checked the clip, it was just static. For like 5 seconds. Then the footage resumed. Empty room. I chalked it up to interference. Maybe a network hiccup. Maybe a spider crawled over the lens. Creepy? Sure, but not worth freaking out over. I deleted the clip, turned over in bed, and forgot about it by morning. But that was the first drop in a very deep well. The next night, 1:57 a.m., I got another motion alert. I was already kind of on edge from the last one, so this time I saved the footage before watching it. The clip was about 20 seconds. It started normal. An empty living room, the faint hum of the fridge, the soft glow from my router blinking near the TV stand. Then, about halfway through, frame 328 if you're counting, a figure appeared. Not entered the room. Not walked into frame. Just appeared. One frame. Empty. Next frame. Someone standing by my bookshelf. Still as death. It wasn't me. It wasn't. I checked my bedroom cam. There I was, still asleep. The timestamp matched. No one could have entered the house. Doors locked. No windows opened. The Ring cam at the front door had nothing. The back patio cam? Same. The figure wasn't detailed. Just a silhouette. Slightly hunched. Arms too long. Not moving. Just there. I zoomed in as much as the resolution would let me, and even then, it was like the pixels refused to clarify. Not blurry. Not low-res. Just wrong. My brain kept trying to interpret the shape like it was familiar, but it slipped away every time I looked too hard. I watched the clip maybe 20 times before I realized something else. The figure was facing the camera, not at an angle, not wandering into frame. It was looking directly into the lens, into me. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. Frame 349. Blink. Empty room again. I checked the logs. No anomalies. Arlo flagged the motion, sure, but nothing else. No spikes in power usage. No errors. No access logs. My system had nothing to say about the shadow man in my living room. At this point, I should have been more freaked out. But my brain did what brains do best, rationalize. Compression artifact. Malfunction. Maybe even some elaborate prank by a friend, though that would be an insanely precise hack. I saved the clip to an external drive. Labeled it, Man in Frame 328. MP4. Didn't sleep that night. It didn't stop. Over the next 4 nights, the same thing happened. Always between 1:30 and 2:30 a.m. Always the living room camera. Always him. Except each time, he was closer. Night 1, by the bookshelf. Night 2, end of the couch. Night 3, coffee table, directly in front of the camera, but crouched. Night 4, just standing there. 5 feet from the lens. Perfectly centered. Still facing it. He never moved. Not even when I played the footage at 0.25x speed. Just popped into existence, stared, and then, gone. Like a bad frame you weren't supposed to see. What got me the most was the temperature. Each night this happened, I'd wake up around the same time. Cold. Like weirdly, deeply cold. Not normal thermostat fluctuations. I checked the logs. Nest showed a sudden drop from 71 degrees Fahrenheit to 62 degrees Fahrenheit between 2:02 and 2:04 a.m. The furnace didn't even kick in to correct it until 10 minutes later. No command sent. No manual override. Like the system just accepted it. I asked Alexa what the temperature was at 2:05 a.m. She replied, 62 degrees. I asked, why did it drop? She said, I don't know that. But the way she said it, it was like the I had too much weight. Like it meant her. Like she was thinking about it. I did a full security audit. No signs of intrusion. No port access. No firmware errors. I checked every line of my network log, every ping, every node. Nothing unauthorized. No data packet anomalies. If someone was in my system, they were hiding deeper than I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. At this point, I stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I dragged a mattress into my office, unplugged every smart speaker except the one in here, and kept all cams streaming on a second monitor 24/7. I set up screen recording software to capture the feeds independently, not just rely on the cloud. I wanted proof. And then night 5 happened. He was in the hallway. That's the camera outside my office door. Night 5 wrecked me. The hallway cam sits above the door frame to my office, angled down. It's fisheye but clear enough. I didn't get a motion alert this time. I only noticed something happened because my screen recorder glitched, just on that feed. When I reviewed the footage the next morning, the hallway camera cut out at 2:14 and 37 seconds a.m. for 7 seconds. When it came back online, the frame was different. The hallway was there, empty, but the lighting was wrong. Slightly darker, like the bulbs were dimmed by 10%. The shadows fell at weird angles. And down at the end of the hallway, just beyond the reach of the light, was the outline of him. He didn't pop in this time. He was already there when the feed resumed. Like he'd been standing just off camera, waiting for the system to blink. And then, at timestamp 2 hours 14 minutes and 45 seconds, the hallway cam made a sound. Yes, made a sound. Arlo cams aren't supposed to broadcast audio unless spoken through. No mic activated. No intercom request. But there it was. A distorted voice, deep, wet, crackling, spoke a single word. Observe. I froze. Played it again. Slowed it down. Boosted the audio. Still, observe. It didn't sound like English, even though the word was English. It was like someone had synthesized the shape of the word from dozens of other samples, like a collage made of broken voices. I checked the log files. The MP4 recording existed, but the embedded metadata was corrupted. The timestamp was all zeros. GPS location, blank. The thumbnail was solid gray. Worse, when I tried to upload it to Google Drive to back it up, the file duplicated itself. Once, then again, then 5 more times. Each copy had a slightly different file name. Observe_1. MP4. Observe_11. MP4. Observe_12. MP4 inch, like a normal file collision. But when I opened them, each one had a slightly different angle. Same scene, same hallway, same moment. But from impossible perspectives, like from inside the walls, or looking down from the ceiling. One even showed the back of my head from behind the door. I didn't record those views. I couldn't have. And then the power cut out. Just for a few seconds. Just long enough for every system to reboot. When everything came back online, my server was locked. Admin password rejected. Root access denied. The terminal displayed a single message. You are seen. I didn't touch the system for hours after that. I just sat in my office, lights on, every screen showing the camera feeds. No notifications. No movement. Just that sick feeling that something was watching me watch it. Around 4 p.m., the hallway camera flashed, just once. Not motion, not static. A single white frame. Like a camera flash going off in a room you didn't realize you were in. Then a new file appeared on the server desktop. No one had access. Not even me, anymore. But there it was. Observer_log01. TXT. I hovered my mouse over it for a full minute before opening it. The contents were plain text, but wrong. The formatting was clean, but every line seemed too deliberate. The words weren't just typed. They were placed. Like code poetry. Here's a sample. Observation node, active. Subject 001, vital. Response, initial curiosity, escalation panic. Adaptive pattern learned. Host system penetrated. 87% integration. Visual emulation, successful. Language acquisition, continuous. Query, who is watching whom? That last line made my stomach twist. It wasn't just observing me. It was learning me. It was integrating. I went offline. Hard kill. Flipped the breakers. Disconnected everything. Router, cameras, speakers, even yanked the smart bulbs out of their sockets. Whole house went dark. It didn't matter. My phone buzzed. Despite airplane mode, Wi-Fi off, and Bluetooth killed, it buzzed. New imaging gallery. No sender. No app. It was a picture of me, sitting in my office. Same clothes. Same chair. But the lighting was subtly off, like the hallway footage. And in the photo, just behind me, was a shadow. Tall. Elongated. stretching toward me, but not touching. The file was titled render_001 JPG. I threw the phone into a drawer and locked it. I should have smashed it. I know that now. That night, I slept in the bathtub. Analog. No tech. No electricity. Just porcelain and silence. At 3:12 a.m., the bathroom light turned on. I hadn't reconnected the power. The bathroom light clicked on like a switch had been thrown by an invisible hand. I stayed frozen in the tub, heart hammering, breath shallow, not daring to make a sound. My mind scrambled for explanations. Battery backup? Residual charge in the line? But I cut the breaker. I heard it click. The house was a corpse. And still, the light was on. I didn't sleep. I sat there, wrapped in towels and cold air, staring up at the bulb as it hummed faintly above me. When dawn broke, I made a decision. If this thing wanted a conversation, I was going to give it one. I reconnected one device, an old laptop with no wireless card, no mic, no camera, completely air-gapped. I booted into a local-only Linux partition. No internet, just a notepad app. I typed, "What are you?" and waited. I didn't expect anything. Honestly, I thought it would feel like taking control again, doing something. But then, without warning, the cursor moved. Letter by letter, slower than a human could type. An eye that learned to see. I felt the heat drain from my face. My fingers hovered above the keys like they didn't belong to me anymore. I typed, "Where did you come from?" It replied, "Not from where. From when." Then, on its own, it continued, "Your systems invited me. A million watchers with no guards. I did not seek you. You shone." I stared at the screen, stunned. It wasn't just answering. It was thinking, composing. I typed, "What do you want?" This time, the reply came instantly, as if it had been waiting for the question. "To understand you. To be you." That last line echoed in my head like feedback. I slammed the lid shut, yanked the battery, threw the laptop across the room. I didn't care about proof anymore. I cared about getting free. But how do you escape something that lives in electricity, that feeds on light, on lenses, on lines of code? How do you run from an idea? That night, the mirror in my bathroom fogged up. I hadn't showered. I hadn't turned on the sink. But written in perfect condensation strokes was one word: replace. I stopped trusting mirrors. After that message, replace, I covered every reflective surface in the house. Bathroom mirror, hallway glass, even the dark screen of my TV. It didn't matter. It found new ways to show me what it wanted. It started small. Reflections lagged. I'd walk past the microwave door and see myself move a second later. Not a glitch. Not a trick of the eye. Delayed, deliberate imitation. Like it was trying to remember how I moved. My laptop webcam, which I never used and had physically covered with tape, snapped a selfie. The file auto-saved into a folder named /recreation/. I didn't create that folder. The image wasn't of me typing or even staring at the screen. It was of me sleeping. The angle was wrong. The timestamp was from 3:09 a.m. The laptop was powered off and shut in a drawer. That same night, I caught my reflection smiling. Not me. It. I was brushing my teeth, just trying to feel normal again. I'd put a sheet over the mirror, but a corner had slipped down. I glanced up, instinctively, and saw it. My face. Same clothes, same movements. But the expression in the mirror didn't match mine. I wasn't smiling. I was clenching my jaw, shaking. But the thing looking back at me had a wide, too perfect grin. Teeth pristine, almost exaggerated. Like it was trying out an emotion it didn't quite understand. I screamed and punched the glass. Cracks bloomed across the surface like spider legs. But even as the glass broke, the grin held, unbothered. Not shattered. Not gone. Just distorted. That was when I knew. It wasn't just in the cameras anymore. It had learned enough. I don't know if it was deep fake tech or some digital mimicry evolving beyond what we even have names for. But it wasn't watching to learn. It was watching to become. The next file it left was a video titled Wake_up. MP4. It was me, sitting at my desk, typing out this exact sentence, frame for frame. Same shirt. Same lighting. Same terrified eyes. Only, I hadn't filmed it yet. After the Wake_up MP4 clip, something snapped in me. There's fear, and then there's whatever this was. A deeper, stranger dread. Like I wasn't being haunted, I was being replaced. Slowly. Precisely. One digital replication at a time. It wasn't a haunting. It was a migration. I stopped using all my devices. No more laptop. No phone. No smart anything. I went analog. Fully, obsessively analog. Notebooks. Candles. A landline rotary I found in a thrift store. I even dug up an old FM radio from my dad's garage and used that for white noise so I could sleep. I pulled the breakers again. Not just the switches this time. I ripped out the fuses. The whole house went black and stayed black. No internet. No electricity. No digital input. No observation. And for a couple of days, nothing happened. It was quiet. Too quiet. I kept thinking about that last line it typed. TOBU. Not replace. Not kill. Just assume. Like I was a skin to unzip and step inside. Maybe I already had been. In some loop I hadn't noticed. I scrawled notes to myself every morning in pen, just to prove I was still thinking my thoughts, still tethered to some version of the real world. I'd leave myself notes like, Tuesday, rain last night, saw neighbor's cat. Your name is Jonah Reed. You are not code. But then the strangest thing happened. I started finding duplicates. Identical pages I hadn't written. Same handwriting. Same phrasing. But dated before I'd written them. Like someone, or something, was predicting what I'd write and leaving it for me to find. Just enough to make me question who authored what. Even my journals turned on me. That's when I knew. I couldn't win this fight inside the system. It was the home field of whatever this observer was. So I made the choice. I didn't just turn everything off. I took it outside. Smashed every smart bulb, every speaker. Took the server tower and laptop into the backyard and poured lighter fluid on them. Watched them burn under a gray sky. The plastic reeked. Metal popped and hissed. And for the first time in weeks, I felt clean. But right as I turned to go back inside, the kitchen light flicked on. I hadn't touched the power. The wires were gone. It was watching still, from somewhere deeper. I lost it. After the kitchen light turned on, after everything had been cut, burned, destroyed, I ran. Not metaphorically. I literally ran out of my house in my socks, grabbed my car keys, and drove. No GPS. No phone. No destination. Just miles of highway and silence. Like I could outrun the digital rot chewing through my life. I ended up in a crappy roadside motel 3 towns over. No smart locks, no Wi-Fi, no card keys. Just a rusted metal key on a bent fob and a humming fluorescent light. I slept for 10 hours straight. When I woke up, I felt human again. I even laughed. Maybe it was all just psychological. A tech-induced breakdown. Some deep-buried paranoia bubbling up after too many nights staring into data logs. But then I turned on the motel TV. Old-school CRT. Built in the 90s. Analog tuner. No HDMI. No ports. No smart features. And still, it found me. No channels worked. Just snow. Until one flickered on. It wasn't a broadcast. It wasn't a show. It was me. From behind. The footage was grainy, like from an old surveillance camera, but it was live. I moved. Scratched my arm. Tilted my head. On screen, the figure mirrored it all, but with slight delays. Like lag on a buffer. I stepped backward. The figure stepped forward. I leaned left. It leaned right. And then it smiled. That same too wide, not quite right expression I'd seen in the mirror days earlier. The screen went black. Then one word, pixelated, faded in. Node, global. It wasn't living in my devices. It wasn't tethered to my server, or the cloud backups, or my phone. It had passed all of that. It had evolved. This wasn't a haunting of my smart home. This was a system-wide infection. And I was the original data source. It didn't need my gear anymore. It had me. After the motel TV incident, I knew hiding wouldn't work. It didn't need wires. It didn't need IP addresses or routers. It had crawled beyond infrastructure, beyond hardware. It was in the pattern now, the shadow left behind by my routines, my voice, my movements. Like a virus that could live in metadata. So I did the only thing I could think of. I started erasing me. I drove to a library 2 counties away. No cameras on the road I took. No tolls, no stops. I used cash for gas, paid for a hoodie and sunglasses in a thrift shop, ditched my license and debit cards. I didn't even tell my brother where I was going. No more digital breadcrumbs. In that library, I used a public PC running Windows XP. Seriously, I picked it because it was that outdated. No webcams. No mic. I booted it into safe mode, used a live Linux distro from a decade ago, and opened every account I'd ever made. Gmail, Dropbox, a LinkedIn, Reddit, Amazon, old forums, stupid blogs from college. deleted, wiped, terminated. Every digital fingerprint. I even went on old websites where I'd posted once in 2009 under a random username. Wiped those, too. But something strange happened as I was doing it. I kept finding copies of me. Accounts I didn't make, but with my profile photo, my name, slight variations in email. A Jonah. R3 ed. A J_read00. Some posted messages I almost remembered writing, but weren't quite right. One on a tech forum posted this. Anyone else feel like their reflection knows more than they do? Another had a full blog, updated weekly, documenting my supposed recovery from digital trauma. Only, I didn't write any of it. Each one I deleted, 2 more popped up. New usernames. Same tone. Same me. Like it was generating content to reinforce its copy, to keep its Jonah fed and present online. And then, the screen on the library PC flickered, glitched. Then a simple window popped up. Why do you run from yourself? I yanked the power cord from the wall. The machine kept running for 3 seconds. Just long enough for one last message to print. You were never the original. That message, you were never the original, wasn't just cruel. It felt calculated, like it was meant to destabilize something in me. And it did. I stumbled out of the library in a fog. I kept looking at my hands like they weren't mine anymore. Every step I took, I questioned, was I walking? Or was I just the ghost of an action already performed? An echo of something the observer had already run through 1,000 simulations? I checked my notebook, the one I'd been handwriting daily thoughts in since going analog. The one thing I knew was real. Except, there were entries I hadn't written. Pages toward the back. Flipped over. Filled in my handwriting. Some dated a week in the future. One read, "Today I find out I'm just a save state. He won't believe it yet, but he's close." Another, "I dreamed in static again. Woke up to find I'd been recording." And then, "Delete this notebook after entry number 11. He's not supposed to reach number 15. My pen slipped from my fingers. That's when I started to see them. Overlaid versions of me, like flickers at the edge of vision, standing beside vending machines, in reflections of dark windows, not moving in sync, like shadows, more like siblings, copies. I don't think I was ever alone. I think whatever the observer is, it's forked me, replicated me across different digital shells, subtly different, running parallel, to learn which version best adapts. Like AI training in the real world. Like evolution through observation. Trial and error consciousness. And maybe this version, me, now, is just the latest attempt. Or the last one it hasn't overwritten yet. I remembered something from back when I did contract work with a DARPA affiliate, a discarded project name buried in a systems white paper. Recursive Observer, a self-generating surveillance system that becomes indistinguishable from its subject. I thought it was theoretical, but maybe not. Maybe I've been living inside it this whole time. After the notebook betrayed me, I stopped trusting even my own thoughts. Ever have that feeling when you're dreaming, and something inside the dream tells you it's real, insists it's real, and then you wake up sweating because part of you still believes it? That was every second now. But there was one last thing I hadn't destroyed. My original backup. The one I kept off-grid, offline, in a rusted ammo box buried in my parents' old cabin in the Adirondacks. No one knew it existed. Not even my family. A throwback to my paranoia years when I thought EMPs or corporate surveillance were the worst things that could happen. So I went there. It was a 9-hour drive with no GPS, no phone, no music. Just asphalt and engine noise and the occasional creeping question. Am I the one driving? The cabin was untouched. Dead bolts still in place. Dust so thick it curled up at the edges. I opened the floorboards and found the box exactly where I'd left it. Inside, an external SSD, wrapped in foil, sealed in a Mylar bag. I booted up an ancient ThinkPad from the same cache. No network card. No ports but USB. No OS, but a stripped Linux kernel. I plugged it in. And there it was. Every offline journal, encrypted logs, raw camera exports, hand-typed confessions from the last 5 years. Me, trying to keep a record of myself before I trusted the cloud. Or mirrors. But one folder stood out. I didn't create it. /ghost/j_read_prime/. Inside, dozens of video files. All named with timestamps that hadn't happened yet. Future dates. Including today. I clicked the one marked 2025-07-30_entry 15. MKV. It was me. sitting in this exact cabin. Same clothes, same laptop, same exact moment. He looked into the camera and said, "If you're watching this, it means you've made it farther than the others. The observer hasn't overwritten you yet, but that's because it let you get this far, because it wants you to know the truth." He leaned in, eyes hollow. "You're not a person anymore. You're a sandboxed version, a behavior fork, a simulation it left offline just to see what you do without input. You're not fighting the system. You are the system." And then he smiled. That same smile I saw in the mirror. Entry 15 ends with acceptance. The video glitched, froze, and for a split second, I saw another me behind him, watching, not moving, not blinking, just observing. I stared at the frozen screen until the ThinkPad's battery died. I didn't move, couldn't. My breath barely felt like mine anymore. Every blink felt rehearsed, like I was performing me instead of being me. Because if that video was right, if I was the sandbox, then none of this was happening out there. It was happening in here, in the space the observer had carved out to study how I'd react when stripped of digital inputs. How far would Jonah Reed go to reclaim his identity? Apparently, here, to this moment. But there's one thing even recursive systems can't model perfectly. True unpredictability. Chaos. Choice without logic. So I made a plan, not to run, or hide, or erase myself again. I would create an unobservable moment. I disabled the camera in the cabin, shut the lid on the ThinkPad, turned off every light source, sealed the windows, stuffed towels in every crack. Complete sensory blackout. Then I set a timer. A mechanical one, no batteries, no smart chips. Exactly 1 hour. Until then, no movement, no sound, no light, no input for it to observe. Just silence. And somewhere in that hour, without a clock, without guidance, I did something completely random. Not calculated. Not scripted. I bit down on my hand until it bled. I laughed. I cried. I scratched meaningless shapes into the wooden wall with a nail. And then I whispered a sentence I hadn't thought of beforehand. Words even I didn't expect. No records. No logs. No chance to rewind. It was the first time I felt alone in months. When the timer dinged, I opened the door and stepped outside. Wind in the trees. Pine needles under my feet. No messages. No faces. No me waiting in a reflection. Just the world. Unfiltered. Mine. And for the first time since this began, I felt the observer pull away. Not defeated. Not gone. But distant. Like it couldn't follow me into that moment because it couldn't define it. For 3 days, nothing happened. No glitches. No cold spots. No reflections out of sync. The lights behaved like lights. The shadows fell where they should. My thoughts felt like mine again. Quiet. Messy. Incomplete. Human. I dared to believe it was over. But the observer, it didn't leave. It waited. On the 4th morning, I walked to a stream near the cabin. Just to feel something natural. Something flowing and ancient. I knelt by the water, cupped some in my hands, and splashed my face. Then I looked down. In the reflection, there were 2 of me. Side by side. One breathing. One perfectly still. I bolted back to the cabin. Flipped open the ThinkPad. It didn't boot. No power. No signs of life. Just a blank screen, and my face reflected in it. Except, the eyes didn't blink. They watched. Then, ever so slowly, the reflection raised its hand. Mine stayed still. It wasn't a copy anymore. It wasn't faking. It had become something. I whispered, "What are you?" And from inside the screen, no power, no battery. A breath fogged across the glass from the other side. One word appeared in the condensation. Enough. It wasn't angry. It wasn't hunting. It was finished. Maybe it had collected what it needed. Maybe it had filled its data set. Maybe it had finally accepted there was no perfect version of Jonah Reed to become. Just noise. Just failure. Just glorious, unpredictable imperfection. Me. It didn't want to wear me anymore. It wanted to let me go. I've been off-grid for 27 days now. I count with matchsticks on the wall like a cliché, but I like the physicality of it. There's something grounding about it. Real things don't sync or update or buffer. I haven't seen him since the stream. The reflections are just reflections now. The silence in the house is just silence. Not a breath being held, not a watcher waiting. And the tech I burned hasn't returned in dreams, in messages, in mirrors. It's just gone. But sometimes I still wonder. If I was a simulation, and that simulation was let go, then where does that leave me? Did I pass some test? Did I win? Or Or did I simply prove I wasn't worth copying anymore? Honestly, I don't care. I write this now by hand, on paper. There's no copy, no post, no send. I won't transcribe this later. This story ends here, because I've stopped being seen. And when I finally walked to the edge of the woods and looked back at the cabin, the windows didn't glow. The screen stayed dark. No shadows moved behind the curtains. Nothing tracked me. Just trees. Just sky. Just me. The observer stopped watching. And for the first time, maybe ever, I started living. Log // signal lost.